All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Town of Groveland Zoning Board of Appeals on Wednesday, July 10th. I have a motion to open, please.
So motion.
Second. All those in favor?
Right.
You're off and running. All right, first, I'd like to welcome Rebecca Oldham back to her roots on the zoning board. So welcome. Look forward to having you join us again. And we want to thank Annie Sudler for all the fine work she did and wish her well in her new role within the town. First on the docket here, continued application 2024-6 for 441 Main Street, ST Park. Public hearing in accordance with general laws, chapter 48 as amended for application 2024-6. Made by ST Park Trust, Eric Harper, trustee, 8 Federal Way, Groveland, Mass. For the premises located at 441 Main Street, Groveland, Mass. Map 24, lot 9, located in the residential 2 zoning district to modify a special permit 2014-4 to add an additional building onto the property.
Good evening.
Right, Jay, please.
Am I okay here? Or do you want me to move up or?
I think the mic's will catch you, right?
All right. When we were met a month or so ago, I didn't think there was anything else that you guys had asked of me. But I believe Ms. Schindler had prepared a draft decision for you guys to review. And she had circulated it to me and I got back to a few questions that she had on it. I didn't know if you guys had any outstanding questions that I could try to answer for you.
I can handle it. For the record, you're just going to go through what you and Andy got to, just so it's on public record.
Like from the beginning or?
No, just like real quick, like what, you said there was a couple things that.
Oh, sure, yeah, yep. There were just some, for the most part, well, I guess the first question she had was on page 2 of the draft that she prepared. Page 2, section D, she wanted to confirm that phase 2 had not been constructed. And it has not been constructed. There were 3 buildings proposed for phase 2 from a 2017 decision that have not been constructed, and that's viewable on the town's MyMap system. There was also a question on page 3, a couple questions about some decisions or actions of this board that had never been recorded. There was a 2014-4 amendment that I guess went back to the decision from March 7th of 2014 regarding a stipulation which read special permit is subject to recall if the board receives any written complaints. I could find no copy of that reported anywhere or any copy that existed. I assumed Annie had gotten it from the town clerk, but I hadn't circled back to the town clerk to actually see what it says. My assumption was that a special permit subject to recall if the board receives any written complaints. It seems a little ambiguous. Maybe not ambiguous, might not be the right word, but didn't seem like a condition that I would typically expect to see in a decision. Because somebody can complain about anything and repeal the decision. So I assumed the amendment was to remove that stipulation, but I haven't found a copy of that anywhere. I assume the town clerk has a copy.
She should, yes.
And then there was a 2016 decision, 2016-7. She couldn't find it at the registry of deeds, but it's actually recorded immediately prior to the next item on the list. The 2016-8 finding that was voided by land court. It's recorded in book 35927, page 568. The immediate, like 10 pages prior to that, is the decision 2016-7, which I had forwarded her a copy of. There's actually a decision that was recorded and then an affidavit from an attorney explaining why some of the dates of the decision were incorrect. So they executed and prepared a new decision that's recorded immediately. Sequence of that. So those documents are recorded. They're just recorded wrong first and then corrected, fixed. And I believe that's the only other comment that I responded to. Hours of operations, there was a question about the site not operating on federal holidays. And the request was to add Juneteenth in there as a federal holiday, which seems somewhat appropriate. So,
Thank you.
I did have one quick question about it, though. On the first page, the following members were present at the hearing. Chris Goodwin, John Stokes, second, John Roll,
Scroll.
and Jason Naves. Was Brad?
I don't believe he was present at that.
Okay, right, so that's accurate, right.
Not, I think that was the meeting before, yeah.
And I believe Mashonda has been working on a site plan for mostly geared towards the planning board side of it. That will show park spaces around the proposed building. They just didn't have that ready for the break tonight. That's about it.
Thank you. Any questions for the board for Jay?
I'm good.
I'll have a chance to review Andy's draft.
Yep. We have a lot going in to do.
Yeah, so. Just gonna go through quick, so, make sure we're checking the boxes on the special permit finance. So, social, economic, and community needs served by the proposal. You you're there?
I feel like it's in keeping with site.
Yeah, I think I would agree.
Yep.
Traffic flow, safety, including parking and loading, I think similar, right?
Yeah.
Keeping the site, the site provides for that.
Significant impact.
Adequacy of utilities and other public services,
Great.
great.
Yeah.
Neighborhood character and social structures, yeah,
Same.
the site prepared.
Yeah.
Suits for that. Impacts on the natural environment. Again, that's very minimal, where it is.
Yeah.
Potential fiscal impact, including impact on town services, tax base and employments. Use that.
Yep.
Consistency with the town of Groveland Community Development Plan or the town of Groveland Master Plan.
System.
Consistent.
Yep.
Change or extension shall not be substantially more than detrimental to the existing non-conforming use to the neighborhood.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yep.
Box there. Any other comments? I think we're okay to vote, so I want to fly a motion.
Motion that we accept it. As written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Okay.
That passes unanimously. Okay. Thanks, Jack.
Thank you.
Next on the docket, continued Sewell Street. Insubstantial changes to the plan previously approved. These include relocation of access for the development of associated changes to drainage and the correction of an error in the decision to change the number of bedrooms from 298 to 312. Review of the TEC stormwater review, zoning board acknowledgement of rental regulatory agreements.
Something there.
So Bill, I know these are all insubstantial, but and would like to make some comments since any of the proposed.
I think, just tonight, I'm really just here for that regulatory agreement, mass housing, they don't require it. Just complicates things a little, on the paperwork side for their end, if the town doesn't sign them. So I was just here to answer any questions pertaining to that, but the changes are still going through, the TEC review also.
Right.
If you had any questions on the change, I'd be more than happy to answer. Thanks, Karen.
Any questions for Bill?
So in reviewing the TEC letter, have you come to any understanding of what they're asking for there and?
Oh, yeah, that's all being worked out. Traffic's already done, engineering halfway through it. We didn't really put everything on the plan, the crosswalk relocation, all that, when we first made the change to the road, we just wanna make sure you guys are good with it before so that's all getting ironed out now, probably. You guys meet every 2 weeks, probably the second meeting from now, get that in, maybe the third, but should get that in the next 2-3 weeks. But like I said, it's just mostly for that regulatory agreement, if you guys have any questions on that.
Any questions?
No.
Jason?
I think, Rebecca had made mention of a line that was not consistent with what, we would need to have done.
So we had the agreement reviewed by town council since we had not seen an agreement like that ourselves and wanted to just confirm that it was in fact, it coincided with what was approved. And the town council that we have is me, Talaman and Costa. Unfortunately, Jay Talaman was one of the original counsel for the developer, so we needed to go outside and sought a different legal opinion. So we contacted Donna Brewer with Harrington and they had made mention that, essentially, that while you're acknowledging that the regulatory agreement satisfies the requirements of the comprehensive permit, the last sentence says if there's a conflict between the two, the regulatory agreement controls. But clearly you are not going to review the comprehensive permit and the regulatory agreement and determine to figure out which one is accurate. So where it is not required that this be signed in order for Mr. Daly to proceed, it was recommended that we refuse to sign it at this point in time.
Thank you.
So I had a question about the term. I have seen in other towns, the ask for the agreement to be in perpetuity versus 30 years. I'm just wondering how that,
So that agreement, that comes from Mass Housing, that has nothing to do with me or my team. That comes right from the state. And it just gets shipped right to you, so I don't. Like I said, that's all through them, they're the ones that. They don't require it, like I said, they like it, but they don't require it. And I didn't even read it, to be honest with you. I mean, I get it, it's a lot of, but there's a million forms of them, but that's, like I said, it comes right from them, so we don't put our little spin on it or try to sneak stuff in or take stuff out, that's a boilerplate document from them.
And that is correct, the town council agrees that it is a boilerplate template type of situation, so.
What is it?
The comprehensive permit rule
But it
and not
stands.
sign the
as it
agreement.
is.
Right.
so is it open to changes?
That part I'm not sure, I mean, I guess we could consider changes and present them to Mass Housing, but I'm not sure because you have to go through the process of submitting the information to get approval for the comprehensive permit. I'm not sure if they would allow you to do that, I'm not sure what the communication is with Mass Housing.
Yeah, I don't really know where the sticking points in the regulatory agreement would be, I think they just reference the comp permit, but. It is required for the building permit, to just throw that out there too, so the last item, I uploaded the showed good standing to them today, that finally came in, and. That would be the last item for their final approval, but it's not, like I said again, it's not required, but.
Right.
It would streamline things, But I could ask tomorrow, I could ask my consultant for that form, what, if it can be changed. I don't think it can be. I don't think it can.
It might not be.
Right.
Like, and I think that again was what council was stating is that the fact that you approved a comprehensive a comprehensive permit as the zoning board of appeals that you're required to do under the statute. Therefore, let that permit govern, and then if necessary, they can review the regulatory agreement and state where they think there's any deviances from what they're proposing.
I mean, myself personally, I prefer to adhere to advice from council on this. Do we know what the ramifications are if any, if we do say we're gonna agree with council and not sign the mass housing?
Town council stated that there would be no ramifications. She's seen communities not sign before, and the developer is able to submit all of their appropriate paperwork. This is just one document of many documents that needs to be submitted to mass housing for the developer to move forward with the next step. So if there is an issue, then something will be brought forward. It can come back to the zoning board of appeals, but it does not eliminate the developer's ability to move forward at this point in time.
Okay, board discussion? What do you think?
Well, we can let it go forward and not sign it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's the way to go.
so I think we have two separate motions to approve the substantial changes, and then second one for the.
We can do that, so we get the final note.
DCC. Oh, that's right, so back to.
Yep.
So, okay, just want to table it.
Continue.
Yeah, thank you. Do we want to do an official statement about one thing, sign the thing, Billy? The mass housing?
However,
All right, why don't we do a motion to continue the review and approval of the insubstantial changes until we get TC feedback and to talk to our next meeting, which is calendar. So it'll be Wednesday, August 7th. Is our next scheduled one?
so continue.
Right, I'll make a motion to continue the Sewell Street, notification of substantial changes until August 7th meeting, when we have TEC review feedback. So, those in favor? And on the mass housing form, Rebecca, just point of order, do we need a formal vote on that to not endorse or?
I would take a formal vote.
So I'll make a motion to follow town council's advice and not sign the agreement.
A second,
All those in favor? All right, unanimous. On here. So next on the docket, 36 Garrison Street, board provide information on the 40B process. And just for point of order, we'll also be opening this up for public comments as well. We understand that there is a lot of commentary with the community, so we want to have an open forum for that as well. But first, we want to see just as a refresher. So Rebecca, as of this point, we've gotten the courtesy notification from the proposed applicant on the project, that may be coming to the town. At this point, it's still with the state. We have not received an official application from anyone that's submitted to the town as of now, correct?
That is correct.
So with that being said, so again, just a rehash of what that process will be like. Once that is, the 40B project is actually, if it is approved by the state, they will then submit an application to the town for consideration. That will be submitted to the zoning board of appeals for processing. Once that happens, there will be a formal review of that application, all points of the application with public feedback, with peer reviews and everything that goes along with that. And again, that would be public hearing with commentary allowed for every step within that process. At this point, I do want to open it up for any public comment of any concerns at this stage, again, knowing that we do not have an application in front of us at this point. I would like to open it up. If you would like to make a comment, please just make sure you state your name and address for the record. Please.
I just have a question on the 40B. John Collins, 37 Garrison Street. With the 40B, we're through 40B. Like this project is supposedly 62 and above. Isn't a 40B, you can't limit the age of people that will live within that housing? Isn't that part of the state rules? How can they make it just for 62 and older if that's the be a 40B? That is what it's supposed to be.
I do not believe there is any age restriction tied to a 40B application
I
process.
thought I read that.
I think, again, I do not profess to be an expert on this, but by any stretch, but I do not believe there is any age restriction tied to.
That's something.
That-
This project that on Garrison Street?
to the process in general, so.
Okay,
So the 40B process is not specific to this project. That's a state of Massachusetts program that people can apply to for proposed developments. So with that process, I do not believe the state of Massachusetts has tied any age restrictions to it. But that's certainly something that we can take a look at to see if has there been any commentary by the state, either way.
well, our understanding is that this is gonna be.
Can you state your name and address for the record,
Laurie
please?
Collins, 37 Garrison.
Thank you.
Our understanding is that it's going to be 40B low, over 62. That's what's gonna be housed on 36 Garrison. This is the 40B 62 plus.
I believe that is the intent based by the documents that we've been forwarded, that's still with the state, correct?
Okay, so. Maybe I need to be educated on this, but from everything I read on the 40B law. It is for singles, families and seniors. Not to be no discrimination, you can't age discriminate, sex, race, whatever. So, what is it? What are they proposing?
So the proposed project that's with the state right now is for senior housing development that they're proposing to develop under the 40B statutes.
I didn't think 40B could do that. They can't discriminate. According to the law that I read. So it's singles. Families and seniors. And they cannot discriminate.
But this is how it's being presented to the state. It's gonna be 62 and over. If the state has a situation where it doesn't meet the law, then it doesn't pass. As far as I know, they can put age restrictions on 40B. MTBA, they cannot. There's a difference between the two. I'm looking up right now.
Yeah, but again, at this point, the state of Massachusetts has not approved any project as far as we're aware at this point. So there's still that approval process that has to be gone through, confirmed and approved before they can even submit an application to the town. So.
Paul Reardon, 25 Garrison Street. Maybe it's my understanding, I could be wrong, but is this the just Groveland seniors that would be going into this?
So I don't believe there's been any restriction on the development plans that's been submitted to the state. I know from looking at some documents that I've seen, that I've personally looked up, I believe the initial intent was there to be open up to the greater community, being outside of Groveland as well. But I don't know what the plans are by the community to have any percentage of the town be, whether it be a lottery system or whatnot. But so I don't have any purview into what that selection process would be like for potential residents.
So if there weren't enough people qualified, say there was only out of the 90 units, 20 people qualified or even wanted to go there, obviously it would be filled by, could be anybody, like say even people below 62.
Yeah, right.
But basically not a senior housing complex at that point, it's a housing complex.
Well, again, as far as we're aware, the proposed development is for a seniors living facility.
That's proposed, but
Again,
things change.
Get in there.
right, but again, we can't speculate on what the intent would be if they're not able to,
When they're here,
Right. Yeah.
we can
Yeah.
iron that out.
I mean, for what I understand, in a senior living complex, if there are empty rooms, they don't advertise and that just anyone come in. I think they adhere to the standards that they want in that facility. Again, pure speculation based on my experience with my family who's been in senior living facilities. But with that said, we do not have anything from the potential applicant that's told us that they're gonna guide that selection process.
Does the town have any say over this, or is it the state? So say it's filled with 20 units and then there's no more seniors that want to go in there. At that point, does the town say, we only want Groveland seniors, or is it anybody from anywhere?
So this will be a privately run facility that neither the state nor the town will have any input into the selection process, is my understanding.
Okay. Does this have like a commercial kitchen or anything, like a nursing facility? I heard that
We haven't seen any.
I haven't seen anything, okay, from
Yeah,
where?
so I give.
I believe it should, from what I've seen. Again, I really want to limit how much we're actually commenting on any proposals, because we have not officially been given a proposal to the town as of yet. Right,
Can I ask
so,
a question?
so Case, that's 1 second, because she's been raising her hand on the back.
Again, with the 40B. It's, how can you say that Groveland, that it's privately run? It's really not, it's 40B, it's state. If they're gonna come in and they're gonna do this under 40B, they have to follow 40B rules. Again, singles, families, seniors, no discrimination. So I don't understand the process.
And again, you know, as far as the board's aware, and again, we don't claim to be experts on the 40B process, but as far as we're aware, there are no age restrictions set throughout the 40B process. And again, as far as I'm aware, the intent is not to have this be a state or town-run facility. Is that the proposed applicant, if they submit to the town, would be the ones that are running it themselves in a privately run manner. But with that, again, we'd have to see what their intent is when they propose the application to the town.
All right, so I'm jumping ahead of the application process.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have another question.
Actually, can I ask you, point of order, just because she had her hand up first? No, that's okay. I just want to make sure we're not, you know, stepping over people.
Jane Brown, 40 Garrison Street. So my question is, what is this gonna do for growth? If we're gonna cover this, the 10% 40B in the Salem project. So what advantages is it gonna help Groveland by approving this project? I don't understand if the Salem Street's gonna cover the 10%, it should be off the board. I don't understand why.
Well, again, let us first say again that we don't have anything in front of us that's on the board right now. Right, again,
It's in the works.
it's in the works. Right now, there's no approval from the state that we have seen as of yet,
Have
so
you seen anything with Bethany Homes? Have you seen any proposals, any documentation, anything?
we've received a courtesy copy that they've submitted to the state. There's been nothing addressed to the town of Groveland as far as an application or, well, at this point. Can I just go back to this gentleman here?
The other thing I was curious is, if that's zoned for single and two-family homes, right? We're not opposed to development, it's zoned for that. With the right frontage, right setbacks. Have builders go and build, single family or two family or whatever. But to put that monstrosity in the middle of the neighborhood, it's ridiculous, and especially if Mr. Daly's project covers the 10% that we have to tell them, that you should have the power to say that you would like to stay within the zoning that it is now, wouldn't you?
Yes, to that point, you know, with the Sewell Street project, we will be over our threshold. But I do want to remind just the community at large that is something that, as a community, we will need to manage actively going forward, right?
I understand that. And, you
So,
know,
I'm not saying that
stretch
means
for
any
the-
potential project would need to be approved by any stretch.
Yeah.
But it's just something that will, as a community, we need to keep in mind as we receive potential projects, this one and beyond, that percentage is something that we will need to manage as a community to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to make sure that we can control it the way we want to control
I
it.
understand.
Yeah.
Now, behind the pines is town-owned property,
Yes.
good sized piece. Why couldn't like, a development be put in there for the, over 62 or if that's what they
Well, I
want?
think the biggest issue is the fact that we don't own that land in 36 Garrison Street. They own that land,
Right?
so And in their will, they wanted to have that land. So unless we acquire that land, that is always gonna be up for development.
Right, and I just said, development is fine, if it's within the zoning.
Right.
If you don't have to change the zoning for that, if you don't have to, then you can say, build 1 or 2 families.
Right, but like he said, and like Senator Tar said. The safe harbor is not forever. So if we run out of the safe harbor.
Yeah.
Now a 40B comes in and they don't wanna put the. Senior living, only 90 single bedroom units there.
Yeah.
They wanna put the 3 4-story buildings there.
Right.
They'll be able to do that, and if we don't have safe harbor, we can't stop it. And that's why we should actively work with 40Bs to try to get. Ahead of the game and stay ahead of that 10%, so we don't lose safe
And
harbor.
I agree with you, if it suits the area, okay? As I just said,
Mhm.
town-owned property behind the pines, okay? Why don't you look into something like that? Okay, I mean, let's stick one of these in your neighborhood and see how you. Okay,
290 homes into, a small neighborhood.
Right.
and I heard that they're only gonna build on so much property over on Salem Street, that may be true. But the setup there is different, it's out back, it's a huge area, even though the buildings may only be contained on a certain amount of acreage. This is ridiculous in that position.
Again, we understand there's some strong feelings on this. I do wanna say, we can't comment on what people should do with their privately held land.
But you can either deny that they be required if you have your limit. I understand what Mr. Neves had just said, and that, down the road, if you said we're gonna look for property that can be put into that's more realistic. And there is plenty of property. I mean, how about like, I don't know what's out there, but past your property, all the way over to the pub, there's open land out there. Somebody must own it. Talk to them and have them put a development in. You know what I mean? It's out of the way, it's also.
And again, I do want to remind everyone, this is not the town of Groveland actively searching out people to do developments.
But
in
you
our
are
town.
looking for areas. You can look at.
We're not.
Look at it.
The town of Groveland is not looking for areas. This is a private developer
Now, I was
who is,
told-
who is potentially submitting an application for development.
Okay, that isn't what I heard in meetings at town hall with the select. I heard that there were properties that were looked at that were possibly able to be built, and it was
They
by a team that came in to look for that. It wasn't individual saying, I'd like to do the property. It's someone within our town said, these are nice big pieces of property, they're privately owned, they can be developed, and let's see if we can make them 40Bs, all right? It's like, well, that's great, but I'm just saying, there's big pieces of property that could be developed. It's, if you wanna work on busy roads, you don't have to go on roads like ours.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. I believe through some of the studies the town has commissioned, they have identified potential plots that can be used for potential development.
Right.
But the town of Groveland is not telling people, developer A, you should now develop here.
No, but you could approach them and say, listen, would you be interested in this? This is a perfect area for this. It's in a busy area. It's off of main roads. Would that be something you'd be interested in? You know what I mean? It's like, people want to develop some properties. And it's like, you just have to search them out. I mean, it can't be that difficult to look at the big plots on land that are on busier areas. And talk to people that, they may want to develop it, but who knows?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I think that we could find areas for the future that would not impact, these smaller communities like within the town. It just, it seems a shame to put something like that in that kind of an area.
Thank you, sir.
I understand the concept of trying to get ahead of the 40B thing and everything else, but I don't see the need to pretty much devastate a quiet neighborhood. And I know you've heard it, I don't know if the other board members have, you were at the meetings and the people brought up some excellent points. These places are gonna need to deliver, they're gonna be getting constant deliveries. I'd like to be passing 18-wheelers all day on Garrison Street, in and out on there, or rolling past your house at Old Dock 30. Every day, there's a lot of consequences to doing something like this that haven't been thoroughly looked at, I don't think.
Well,
Like I said, I
well, again,
understand
I'm trying to cut you
the
off by doing want to reiterate that we haven't looked at anything as a board yet.
Right, I'm
Right.
just pointing out the obvious that, like I said, I understand the 40B thing, but being very selective about where it goes into would be, you know, just because we have to stay ahead of this doesn't mean you have to drop that in the middle of a quiet residential neighborhood. You have to think of all the people that live there, the employees that work there, traffic on that street, the deliveries. The 18-wheelers going there. I've been living there 25 years and I probably passed 3 18-wheelers on Garrison. 25 years. Now you're talking a steady stream of heavy trucks going up and down that road daily. I mean, there's a lot of unintended consequences. You're gonna conclude that it would completely change the entire character of the neighborhood. From what it is now, and it's unnecessary. And the town does have the ability to say, no, we're not changing the zoning. End of story, we're done with it.
Again, your concerns are very valid and warranted, and thank you for bringing them up. I can assure you that if a project is submitted to the town for consideration, all those points you just mentioned will be points of discussion that we go through as part of that deliberation process, without question. What's that?
Public discussion with the butters.
And there'll be a public discussion at every single meeting, well, every single point.
Every meeting will be open.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Norma Reardon, 25 Garrison Street. Assuming that the applicant gets past the state approval process, now it's time for them to submit to you all. Can you tell us what exactly they're required to put in their application? They're required to do environmental impact study, a traffic study. What things do they have to, their punch list?
Yes, all those things would be needed, just like they would be for any development that they do within the town. Absolutely.
Punch list will be handed out when packet is,
Right.
you know, when they start the process.
Well, it seems like they've already started that, because they already put, they did a traffic study because they put a big machine on one of our neighbors' trees to see the traffic back and forth, and they already had an excavator come. So it seems like this is like well on its way.
Well, again, yeah, so I would, again, discourage that phrase because nothing's been proposed to the town yet. I presume they would have had to do some sort of studies as part of what they submitted to the state of Massachusetts for consideration. But we can't really comment on that because nothing's been submitted to the town as of yet, right? Again, I would assume that at some level, there's a due diligence that they would have had to do in order to submit what they needed to the state for.
But in the letter that they sent, they said, we have been working with Groveland officials. Who did they work with? It said, and we've been in touch with the abutters. Who? Why can't we find out who they've spoken to? Because they had to speak to somebody.
I answered that last meeting at the Board of Selectmen meeting. They spoke with our town planner. And they said, look, this is what we want to do. And they were told, if you wanted to do that, the only way to do that is follow the 40B process.
And in the letter, it said, Groveland officials are on board. And so are the abutters.
I haven't seen the letters.
You haven't seen the letter, it's in the packet.
All right, I mean. The town of Groveland has not weighed in any respect on this project because nothing's been submitted to the town for consideration to weigh in on.
Okay.
When anything is submitted to the town for approval, it'll be submitted to this board for approval, and we have not seen anything to weigh in on at this point. As for the notice to the butters, I would have to think that process would be part of what they need to do with the state. But to be honest, I don't know because I'm not involved with that process with the state of Massachusetts. But I'm sure that the state of Massachusetts would have concerns if, proper notification was not done and they were required to do so. Sorry, it's like, lady in the back.
Happy Beaver, 25 Can Hill. So I have a quick question. So someone wants to develop land there, and it's zoned for residential. First of all, one question is, how would they get past even someone saying, okay, it's okay to build there, but it's not zoned for what they want? And question two, if you come in and you agree to that, you've changed the zoning, okay?
Does that mean that 2 houses down, 3 houses down, they can build whatever they want?
So I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, that as part of the 40B process, the board is given the allowance to amend zoning for certain areas in adherence with the project if the board so feels to approve.
So it just be.
Right, I believe the 40B supersedes that,
So you're not changing precedent.
correct.
So it wouldn't be business, then it's just that area.
Right.
Business.
Right, yeah, so just if this project was submitted and approved and they did develop that plot, it would not impact the buildability of a similar project the next house down by any stretch.
Like all stuff, like
City.
Right, yeah, no, everything would be very, very project specific.
You could build Lego houses.
What's up?
Yeah, Lego house.
Build Lego houses.
That's just.
MBTA. She brought Legos in and was teaching everybody how to build.
Yeah, I saw it on the video.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was a nice exercise to help visualize that.
All right, and we'll be duly notified if they come to us, trying to use that, you can have, 150 people.
Yeah, 100%. As part of standard process, when any application is submitted to the town, they require to notify butters and provide the town with the proof that you guys were all sent out certified mails, notifications.
Oh, very good.
And that's submitted to the town, that proof is submitted to the town with every application.
When we say abutters, is it just the people buying the property or is it the whole neighborhood?
No, it's
Within a radius,
Radius, okay.
within 300 feet of the proposed development area.
Everybody is residents.
Yeah, that should at least touch everyone directly budding and probably within a couple houses beyond directly budding, I would think.
It would pack everybody up in Mount Garrison, governors. A lot of areas, watch out.
Yeah. And again, as we've been saying, if something is submitted to the town, we very much welcome public comment. We would encourage you to have your, make sure your neighbors know about it if they don't know about it, so they can give them a in if they would like to.
Thank you.
Everyone good?
Okay.
All right,
Tonight, yeah.
all right.
Well, now that we know that. There's, so much going on, the grapevine and the scuttlebutt and everything all around town, the dog park, everything everywhere. And, so now that we know that we will be officially notified by certified mail, when that meeting happens and when things happen. That's a good thing that we found out today. Very good thing. Mr. Davis, have you been able to clarify my question on 40B and senior?
I don't see anything that prevents them from putting an age restriction on.
It doesn't say age restriction, it says it cannot discriminate.
Yeah, but if the property has an age restriction, then that's their age restriction.
Discrimination.
Well, so is affirmative action, but a lot of towns did it. So I mean, you can call it what you want, but if they put an age restriction on the property and they allow it, then it is what it is.
I've taken that question down as well, and we'll try to clarify for the next meeting to see if we can get some clarification on any age restrictions.
That's kind of the scary part is
Right,
not knowing if we can turn around later and go, well, you know what? We decided to do this or that or whatever, and, oh, sorry, too late to stop it now. I can tell you for an example, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Longview Apartments in Georgetown. They put 20 units of low-income housing in that big apartment complex. They were responsible for 97% of the police calls in Georgetown in a single year. Those 20 units, everything from break-ins, car thefts to armed robbery, all associated with those 20 units.
Right.
They stuck.
I do understand your concerns. To be honest, I don't want us to be throwing around, numbers that we don't know to be accurate. Not saying they're not, but we don't know that they are. And I don't want to be spreading anything that we shouldn't be spreading. at
No, I
this point.
understand, that's searchable.
So I can answer the question about the age restriction if you would like.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
So for age restriction, you are able to restrict the development by age for a 40B development. And the most recent regulations that were released by the state for the MBTA 3 TA zoning, you are not able to restrict the property. what the residents are referring to is what we call an affirmative fair marketing plan. So when you go out for these affordable units, you have to make sure that you're creating equal housing opportunities for all. So when you go through a 40B process, what you're doing is you're going to a subsidizing agency and you're getting money from the state to provide these houses or housing units. So what happens with the age restriction is that when you add an age restriction to a development, you're getting less of a return from the subsidizing agency to move forward with that development. So it's not that you can't do it, it's that there's less of an incentive to do it because you're actually gonna get less money from the state. And that's all governed by an affirmative fair marketing plan. And what the state will require is that there's a housing lottery in terms of selecting those individuals that would get to either rent or own those units as the development has moved forward.
On the low one, on the low end.
Exactly, so it is possible, you can have age restricted 40B development, but it does offer less of an incentive for the developer to do such because they're getting less money from the state in order to move forward.
Is that for the lifetime of the property?
So that depends on what is agreed upon with the subsidizing agency and the affirmative fair marketing plan that's put in place. And that goes back to the original question is whether or not you could limit it to being Groveland residents only. And that's usually done through the local initiative program, which they call a LIP.
Mhm.
And a LIP is what allows the local municipality more control over what goes into a particular site. My understanding with this particular development is that they are also seeking federal funds, so they will not be able to move forward with a LIP that would provide the same type of documents that we would use in order to restrict or to allow for Groveland residents to get first preference. But I do believe that there's other legal documents that could be discussed as part of the process that they could initiate that would select that those individuals would be given first preference. But as the residents have stated, even I have concerns when you have those agreements, because once that individual leaves the unit or something happens, how do you maintain that that unit will and remain, affordable in perpetuity? And does that shift the units like we had experienced in one of the more recent conversations with another development? It doesn't mean that that unit has to be the affordable unit.
Mhm.
So once that individual no longer has the affordability restriction, another unit becomes the affordable unit. So it doesn't stay with the unit itself, but it stays within the development. And how that's all crafted through the legal document is how that discussion has gone back and forth with the board. And we experienced that most recently with one of the more recent developments that we've had. So it is something that's done through that process, and it is a discussion that's had. But it is unclear in terms of the most recent development, how that would be put forward based upon their other funding sources that they're trying to pursue. If that answers the question.
Just a little concerned, we are a right to house state. And there's gonna be a need for migrant housing. So if they can't fill this with 62 plus, are we gonna end up with migrants out there? I mean, of course, that's a huge concern for the town, for us that have, it affects us directly, our pocketbooks. So I'm just, we just gotta be really careful.
It started as elderly housing to everybody, and I'm not against helping the elderly, but shoehorning it into the 6 acres, 90 homes
Yeah.
with our bad water problems, it just doesn't seem a feasible idea.
Rebecca, do you know how long the list is for the elderly out here?
For the Groveland
I
Housing
know the
Authority,
waiting list is quite.
the last time I checked, it was about a 2-year waiting list. The issue with the Groveland Housing Authority, though, for us, because it's federally funded as well, preference is not only given to Groveland residents, it's also given to those, with a disability status or veteran status as well.
But do they have names on a waiting list?
They do. The
How
last
long
time I
is it?
checked, which was, to be honest and fair, was a year ago, it was a 2-year waiting list.
I'm sure most of those are.
Well,
I'm sure we can find a viable piece.
Destroying the neighborhood.
That's why you remove the problem. All right, I'm good. Thank you.
Alright.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate all the other commentary and the the passion behind everyone. Look forward to see you in all future meetings.
You will.
Next on the agenda, approval of minutes from the May 1st and June 5th meetings. Everyone have a chance to peruse?
Thank you.
We have a motion to approve.
So much.
Second.
All those in favor? Meeting minutes from May 1st to June 5th have been approved, just to make sure the audio got captured on that. Any other items not reasonably anticipated?
I do not have it.
Nothing? Board, any other items we'd like to bring up that not anticipated at the time of agenda?
No, I guess the most important question is gonna be is whether or not they can remove the age restriction from that housing. And the agreement that the state wanted us to sign for Daley's project would be similar for this project, except it would include the aging restriction, I would imagine, that's the way it's presented. And that's what will prevent them from being able to remove it.
We declare safe harbor. How many units can they build?
How many per safe harbor, I'm sorry?
We're over 10%, correct?
Once, the development pulls a building permit, we'll have over the required units, yes.
Yeah, so once the Sewell Street project gets to that step,
Right.
we have the
Once they
ability
get
to process as a normal application essentially.
And so if we get the application from Bethany Homes prior to him getting the permit, we cannot claim safe harbor.
Right. That's my understanding, correct?
Pretty upset, right?
Next meeting, so we determined that was first Wednesday in August, that is August 7th. That work for everyone? I'm presuming since we already tabled an item to that date.
Yeah.
All right, next meeting, August 7th. If there's nothing else, I propose that I will make a motion rather that we adjourn the meeting at 8:23 PM. Second. Those in favor?
Right.
Thank you, folks. Have a good night. Okay.